This is an American Council for Immigration Reform special report.
Thank you for joining us for this first in a series of special reports on America's immigration security crisis, sponsored by the American Council for Immigration Reform, a nonprofit organization of concerned citizens serving as a watchdog on American immigration policy. This special report details the security crisis within the Citizenship and Immigration Services Agency, or as it's commonly called, the USCIS. My name is Chris Plant, and I'm the host of The Chris Plant Show on WMAL Radio in Washington, D.C. The primary focus of our special report is the testimony of Michael Maxwell. Mr. Maxwell is the former director of the USCIS Office of Security and Investigations. He testified regarding the security crisis posed by USCIS operations. Since resigning from USCIS in February of 2006, Michael has testified 3 times before congressional subcommittees on the rampant fraud and corruption within USCIS and the Department of Homeland Security. In each of his testimonies, he has revealed hair-raising information detailing the fraud and corruption within that agency. It's his view that fraud and corruption have become so deeply embedded within USCIS that the agency's activities seriously compromise the security of the United States. Moreover, he warns that without a major overhaul, USCIS is absolutely incapable of implementing the comprehensive immigration reform bill that was passed by the U.S. Senate in May of 2006. Our special report focuses primarily on Mr. Maxwell's July 2006 testimony before the Subcommittee on Immigration, Border Security, and Claims, chaired by former Congressman John Hostetler. With me to help us understand Mr. Maxwell's testimony and its national security implications is Rosemary Jenks, who's the Director of Government Relations for NumbersUSA and legal counsel for Mr. Maxwell. Rosemary, thanks for being with us.
It's a pleasure.
First of all, tell us about Mr. Maxwell. Where did he come from and how did he end up at this agency?
He started out as a police officer, became police chief for 3 years in a town in western Massachusetts, and then began working in security issues for the federal government before he came to USCIS. He actually worked in the Immigration Service when it was INS, and then was brought over to head up the security detail, the security team for USCIS. So that's his.
So he's not by any stretch of the imagination a know-nothing political appointee. He has a good background for what we're talking about.
Yeah, the national security issues are his bread and butter. That's where he spent his whole career.
And how did he find himself before a congressional committee testifying as to the shortcomings of this agency?
Well, he was at the very top of the organizational structure at USCIS. He had only about 3 people to report to. Once he had reported all these problems to them, and they took no action at all, he realized that basically Congress was his only choice. He had to tell someone he couldn't live with himself if he didn't. And these are very serious issues, and so he came to me so that I could try to get him before a congressional subcommittee or committee, and that's what we did.
And you being an old Washington hand and an attorney, you were able to go to contacts on Capitol Hill and arrange for these hearings? Right.
Well, I set him up with some meetings with staffers for the subcommittee, and they obviously were interested in his story, and you know, he was smart enough as a police officer basically to have documented everything he had talked about. So he brought out thousands of pages of documents, internal emails, internal memos, reports, and so on. So he had proof of everything he was saying and could present that to the staff, which bolstered his case, obviously. So they were very interested in getting him before the members.
And he is sort of a classic example of a whistleblower, then.
Absolutely. This is the guy who was seeing problems that he just couldn't live with and had to tell someone because his chain of command was doing nothing.